so you had 15 minutes to try all this and see how you did. Okay, so for the first one, we had to find intercepts and the slope and the equation. So pro tip, Sonia, if a question asks you multiple parts, sometimes it's a good idea to make a list of the things you need. That way you don't forget. So I got intercepts. There's two. Got the X intercept and the Y intercept. I got to find them both, right? And then I got to find the slope and then the equation. Which actually, this part's easy if I already have the first three answered, right? Because I don't need this to answer the equation, but I do need the y-intercept and the slope. Y-intercept will go here, slope will go there. All right, so, slope is 1.
Right?
1.
I got 5. Right?
It's 1.
Okay, yeah, I got 5.
Over 5.
Yeah.
That's 1.
No, miento. Hold on.
All right, look, here's how I know. Like, I went out of order. I was going to do slope last.
I divided wrong.
So Sam.
Is it because of the coordinates are the same?
Yeah.
Is that why it's going to be 1?
Well, like this goes up 5, right?
Yeah.
And then over 5. 5 over 5 equals 1.
Just by the
Yeah. So a couple things you have to be careful of. Whether you get the right or wrong answer, you should be learning, right? And actually, you probably learn more if you get the wrong answer. But this from left to right is going up, so I know that the slope is going to be a positive because it's going up. And then if I count 5 over 5, well, that's just equal to 1. Now I'm going to use the formula again just to make sure, right? I'm going to do these same 2 points. 7 minus 2 divided by 7 minus 2. That's 5 over 5. And that's still 1. Right? So either way you do it, that's still 1. Right? So I already know that that's going to be 1 right there in my last part of my answer, right?
I have 2 minus 7. Is that okay?
Sure. 2 minus 7, because you would do.
Backwards.
Yeah, you would do this then. You would do 2 minus 7, and 2 minus 7. That's negative 5 over negative 5. That's still positive 1. Yeah. Oh, it happens, Alex. Don't worry about it.
Especially when you have a cow between.
And he explained it really well.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure he did. Because I taught him a long time ago. It's true, Alex, right? Like the thing we did a minute ago, took about 40 minutes. That was probably a week and a half worth of lessons. I mean, you go a lot slower in high school because you meet every single day for a whole year. Here we meet for about 4.5 months, twice a week. We got to go fast. All right. The x-intercept and the y-intercept, they're both right there. They're both the origin. So my answer is 0, 0, 0, 0.
That's what he told me. Because it's right there. It doesn't cross it.
Now, Jacobo, do you see this y-intercept? It goes right there. The number right here, that number is what goes right there exactly. So that's 0, and that's 1. So we could do this. We could do 1 times x plus 0. Oh, that's supposed to be a 0. Or you could just do y equals x. Do you remember last week I told you that's the easiest one, and yet it's the one everybody misses the most? Whoa, a la torta, it's the same. Wait, do you see that you already have your answers for this part from right there? That's weird. All right. So, any questions on number 1 before we move to number 2? Cool.
Thank you. Sorry.
None? Okay. Okay, Eminem. For number 2, we have to find the slope, the x, and the y-intercept for these equations. Well, we already found, like, maybe you don't recognize, but look. Do you see how you don't have a number in the front of the x?
Mm-hmm.
There's really a 1 right there. And you know how the y-intercept goes over here? Like, you know how you have y equals mx plus b? The coefficient, the number in front of the x is the slope, and the number added at the end is the y-intercept, right? There's no number there. That means it's 0. So what we have to find is we have to find the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and we have to find the slope. So we're going to do all 3 of those for this problem right here. Okay, the tricky part were those things I wrote in orange, recognizing that. So the slope is positive 1, no problem. The y-intercept is 0. And remember, what does x equal for all y-intercepts? 0. So that means that it goes through the origin, so they're both the same. Yes, Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay, Jackie. Any questions on part A before we move to part B? Okay. Part B is a little trickier. The x-intercept is the tricky part. The slope is easy, and the y-intercept is easy. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make my list right here so I don't miss anything. Slope is easy. It's 2/3. Priscilla, you want to know a sad story? Students always write 2/3 x, and that's wrong. Because x is a variable. It's changing. The slope is just 2/3. The y-intercept? 0, 6. Don't forget to write 0, 6. For the y-intercept is 0, 6.
Just put 6, it would be like 0.6.
Yeah, it's not a coordinate, right? Yeah, it's y equals 6, which actually would be horizontal line. You're right. What's your question? I'm sorry.
The letter B is
Yeah, the letter B is the y-intercept.
Okay, so in this case we got it.
Yeah.
6, okay.
Now the tricky part. How do we find an x-intercept? Huh? How do we find an x-intercept? Oh my gosh! Look at this. To find an x-intercept, you replace y with 0 and you solve for x. It says it right there. We just did that. Oh my goodness, Sonia. Sonia, that said, it said replace y with 0 and solve for x. So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to put a 0 for the y. Now I have to solve for x.
0.
Put the 0 for y. Solve for x. So I subtract 6, right? So negative 6 equals 2/3 times x, right? Yeah, you subtract it. And then you multiply by the reciprocal. Right? You multiply both sides by 3/2 times 3/2, like that, right? Am I going too fast, Sam? So Sam, you know this makes 1 right here, right? That's why you multiply by the reciprocal, because a fraction times its reciprocal will just equal 1. And that's what we want. We just want 1x, which is what we got, because that equals 1. Now this we have to put a fraction, 1, right? Reduce before you multiply. 2 goes into 2 1 time. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times negative 3, negative 9. Our x-intercept, negative 9, 0.
Thank
You okay?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're allergic to x-intercepts?
I'm allergic to just learning new
Oh,
It's
yeah.
negative 6
Sorry.
times
Because I don't get it.
2/3,
Yeah,
and then you
you just
things.
reduce it.
I'm not getting it.
Yeah, negative, so you're doing this, right? You're doing negative 6 times 2/3.
Yeah, that's what x, right?
Yeah, that was just the times, right? So yeah, that's there. And then you just put a 1 under it, you reduce. Oh wait, times 3 halves, not 2/3. Not 2/3, it was times 3 halves. Like that. Because you have to multiply by the reciprocal. You have to flip it over. How are we doing on that one?
Okay.
So far so good?
Okay.
Okay. You know, actually, okay, when you take your quiz, you're going to have to be able to do this, right? On your quiz, you will not be able to use decimals. But when you're practicing, if you're not sure if you got it right, you can use Desmos. You can just graph it, and you can look and see if you got these answers right. Do you know what I'm saying? You can like type this into Desmos and look at the graph, and you can see if that's the X-intercept and that's the Y-intercept.
That would be
That, yeah, and if it matches, then you got it right. Okay, last one. Ready?
ready.
Chop, chop.
Ready, ready.
We're going to do this one on a separate piece of paper because I'm kind of running out of room. So I'm going to just rewrite it real quick. 3x plus 2y equals 5. Oh, that's ugly. Who picked 5? That's horrible. Okay, Jackie. We have to do a couple things, right? We have to find the X-intercept. We have to find the Y-intercept. And we have to find the slope. Doing a little chart like this helps me a lot. It does. It just helps me keep an idea of where I'm going, because sometimes I start doing so much math and I just lose it. Carlos should like put that phone away and he should just like focus right now, right?
I don't have no phone.
Oh, what's so funny over there?
What did it say?
Oh, okay. You sure?
Come and check.
Well, I believe you. I believe you. All right, Carlos, check it out, buddy. Look. This one's tricky because it's not in this form. Right? It's not. And so the slope is difficult, but these two are easy, because watch. You ready, Sonia? This is going to be fancy. Remember I told you, Blue's Clues, right?
Yeah,
Blue's Clues. We're going to do the X-intercept first, because we're familiar with that, right? Remember, to find an X-intercept, you put 0 for Y and solve for X. So if I put a 0 for Y, here's what I would have. Doesn't that equal 0?
yeah.
So it's really 3 times X equals 5. Is that right? Divide by 3. X equals 5 over 3. See how easy that is?
Would that work for the slope too?
No.
No?
But watch. You can just cover it up. 3 times X equals 5. Because it's 0. It's always going to be 0, so it's 3 times X equals 5.
Why didn't you say that in the first place?
Well. I actually did. But there's so much information that sometimes you like lose it. That's why you got to practice, right? Now watch, I'm going to show you in the second one, right? Show you. So for the y-intercept, you know X equals 0.
So you covered it. Yeah.
So if I put a 0 for X, that's the whole thing's just 0. So I'm going to cover it up. Negative 2 times Y equals 5. So that's going to be negative 5 over 2, because you know you're going to divide both sides by 2.
You covered X2, 3X?
Yeah, because X is going to be 0. So what would
You
happen
got it.
is that, right? And that's just 0, so you don't even have to worry about it.
So you just cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you leave the minus?
Yep, because it's minus 2. And that's just 0 right there. Like we don't even need it. Totally useless. Calm down, Alex. Alex, how are we going to find the slope for this one? How are you going to find the slope for that? Anybody got an idea? Eminem, you know?
The slope?
Yeah. How are we going to...
Find. Wait. You just enter them.
We could use the formula, but that's going to have fractions, and that scares me. Fractions are scary, right? And it's dark outside now. They might be waiting in the shadow. Sam, here's what you're going to do. You could use this. If these were whole numbers, that would be really, really easy. But they're fractions, so it might get a little tricky. It's actually something we can do. Watch, I'll show you real quick, because it's really not that difficult. Because you know it's y minus 0, right? And then it's going to be 0 minus 5 over 3. So what that really is negative 5 over 2. And then you see how it's being divided by this? Negative 5 over 3? Multiplied by the reciprocal. So you know a negative divided by a negative is positive.
Yo, slow down. Take it easy.
Take it easy, huh? And that's going to be negative 3 over 2. Our slope's negative 3 over 2.
So you can't, yeah, you.
Hold on. Do you see what I did there, Alex? I just used the slope formula right here. I didn't want to because it was fractions. But then I wanted to scare Sam, so we decided to do it. And then it turned out it wasn't scary at all.
But there's another way to do it.
There is another way.
Chunk.
Want me to show you?
Wait, let me write that down. Hold on.
Showtime? You ready for me to show you? Take it easy, huh? Yeah, it's negative. No, it's positive. Oh, I hate my life. I'm sorry. Thank you. In fact, I hate it. I know why I confused myself too. Because when I was doing it, I'm like, oh, it's a positive, and I forgot to write the negative, and this is because a negative divided by a negative is positive. That's positive.
Positive.
I am sorry. Thank you, Jackie. I even said it earlier, and then I wrote negative anyway.
Been a long
Man, long day.
Blame it on the day.
I blame it on Alex. I mean the day. All right, Alex. So, Alex, you want to see the other way?
Chunk.
We can take this equation,
Unwrap.
and we can solve for y. So it's y equals this. Priscilla, do you see what I'm talking about? We can solve this for y. So it's y equals mx plus b.
You just gotta reword it.
Yeah, you just got to rearrange it. So watch. If we wanted to solve this for y, we just use inverse operations. We have to get rid of this first. So I need that on the other side. It's a plus 3x, right? Opposite of plus is minus. So we're left with minus 2y equals negative 3x plus 5. Yeah? Good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Then to get rid of the 2, we just divide both sides by negative 2, but we have to divide everything. And here's what we get. Negative divided by negative is positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1, right? Negative divided by negative is positive. And we just said the slope was 3 over 2. Right there, you see? And then our y-intercept, that's a negative 5 over 2. And we also said that just a minute ago right here.
I like that one.
Which way?
Second.
The second way.
Yeah.
Well, you just rock on with your bad self then.
Let me rewrite that.
You're just solving for y. Just solve for y. Change the slope intercept form.
So I really don't solve it. That's
Yep.
a lot easier.
That is pretty easy. That's how I usually do it. I usually do not do it the other way. The other way has got fractions and fractions, and Vanessa looks like she's tapped out. Are you?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.